You can have it all. Great pay, awesome benefits, a flexible schedule, the chance to grow. At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel technicians to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. If you're ready for a new job and want to experience an award-winning workplace, drive your career forward with us. Visit cox.career/autotech to learn more. That's cox.career/autotech.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Network studios, which happen to be 2 miles from the veritable belly of the beast, the Bill Mill, the locus of evil on the entire left coast. That's the Capitol building in Sacramento, Fornicalia. Late at night, when the werewolves howl, you can smell the brimstone and the sulfur issuing forth from that evil, evil building that we're less than 2 miles from. Thank God it hasn't really influenced us. But don't think that it's easy. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Blaine is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my left, your right. And I say that because not only can you listen and chat at shrmedia.com, go quick like a bunny there, you can also watch the show on the SHR Media Facebook page or the SHR Media YouTube channel. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. This speech, she is free. But the booze, it is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and please don't forget to tip your waiter or waitress. Folks, today is Tuesday, the very last day of July. Oh my God, it's July 31st, the year of our Lord 2018. Tomorrow, it's August already, if you can possibly believe that. Tonight, it is Tough Female Journalist Night. And in the first hour, we're going to be talking to Susan KATZ. And has she ever got a story? Well, she was here before, and she was a hell of an interesting chick. And that's why I decided it was time to bring her back into the saloon. The second hour, we have KARI BAXTER DONOVAN, BZ's veritable East Coast political goddess. And she has a very important announcement for everyone tonight, which she is going to break here, right here in the saloon. And don't you forget it. Welcome to Mike. He's in chat. Welcome to Mary Brockman. She's in chat. Her chair is obviously open. And welcome to one viewer who happens to be in chat. Let's start things out in this fashion before we get to journalist Susan KATZ.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And with me, you know that generally there can be, all right, fess up, easy. There can be a certain amount of schadenfreude when I'm talking about happy stories. And here's a happy story. Now, I know that inherently both you and I knew that this was true. But finally, these fakers, leftist fakers, in this case, at the National Geographic, have finally come out and said, well, okay, you might have caught us with our pants down. The headline goes something like this. National Geographic photographer admits viral climate change image of starving polar bear was misleading. Now, if I had a producer, right after I said the word misleading, you would have heard this. But unfortunately, I don't have a producer, and that's not what you heard. So this is from the Washington Times, and it goes like this. National Geographic contributing photographer and speaker, meaning she's making money off of this, Christina Mittermeier acknowledged Thursday, that's last week, that her now viral photographs of a starving polar bear went too far in linking the bear's condition to the effects of climate change. In an article for National Geographic, Ms. Mittermeier wrote that she and photographer Paul Nicklin, who recorded video of the bear, were on a mission to capture images that communicate the urgency of climate change. So they had a mission. Keep that in the brain housing group. Documenting its effects on wildlife hasn't been easy, she wrote. With this image, we thought we'd found a way to help people imagine what the future of climate change might look like. We were perhaps naive. The picture went viral and people took it literally. Imagine that. Because I'm sure that's pretty much what you wanted. National Geographic went too far in drawing a definitive connection between climate change and a particular starving polar bear in the opening caption of our video about the animal, she continued. We said, this is what climate change looks like. While science has established that there is a strong connection between melting sea ice and polar bears dying off, there is no way to know for certain why this bear was on the verge of death. Imagine that. And she says, just like I indicated, the mission was a success, but there was a problem. We'd lost control of the narrative. In other words, you would only have found out about this, and the only reason you did find out about this is because there was a little weeny winky bit of a backlash. Imagine that. Folks, and now, without any further ado, well, yeah, there's going to be some ado, I think. I'm pretty sure. Hello? Can there be some ado? All right. Now, why are we doing this? Just a moment. There might be a technical issue, and though there really shouldn't be, let's make sure. Here we go.
Conservative media done right.
Thank you.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
When you work in tech at Cox, you get to do meaningful work every day. You get to be the biker who codes as fast as he rides, crafting advanced tech solutions that transform car buying. Or a guitarist who develops harmonious apps and websites, connecting people to people and businesses, all in real time. A savvy soccer mom running solution sets as passionately as she runs gameplays. Be the super secret keeper, designing cybersecurity systems to protect private data and websites. A planet protector, expanding EV battery life and inventing more ways to build a better future for all. When you work in tech at Cox, you get to do career-defining work that solves the greatest problems of our time. Join us and connect to work that improves lives, including yours. Learn more about our family of businesses at cox.career/tech. You can have it all. Great pay, awesome benefits, a flexible schedule, the chance to grow. At Cox, we're recruiting auto and diesel technicians to join our Mannheim and Fleet Services teams. If you're ready for a new job and want to experience an award-winning workplace, drive your career forward with us. Visit cox.career/autotech to learn more. That's cox.career/autotech.
Children of all ages, I want to tell you right now, My most distinguished guest tonight is Susan KATZ. She is an acclaimed military and intelligence expert who we have had on before. But I want to remind everyone of a few salient things. Now, she is also a journalist. She's a writer and an author of at least 223 books. She produces an average of about one book every 8 hours. So the other thing that's interesting, I find, is that when she's not writing, she also fills in as an actual accredited emergency room doctor at Walter Reed Hospital. She's been known to teach advanced thermodynamics in applied nuclear physics and quantum mechanics, and she has an emphasis on Schrodinger's cat at MIT in Cambridge. In her spare time, however, this is also very interesting, Susan KATZ, she keeps up her aviation hours as a master pilot in the Lockheed Martin C-5M Super Galaxy. She flies for the United States Air Force out of Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts, and she's also certified to teach the instructor pilot course, or the IPC, for the Boeing Sikorsky RAH-66 Comanche attack helicopter, as well as the Sikorsky HH-60 Pave Hawk, which that bespeaks a lot to her. Now, when she's not doing this, she's working in concert with the Cray Corporation via the Cray XC50 accelerated liquid-cooled GPU supercomputer, which develops a peak performance of, these days, I think it's about 500 petaflops, in order to assist in the design of gas bubble cavitation effects to encompass an object traveling through liquids, with the end goal being supersonic, supercavitating submarines. Now, and someday she'll learn how to have actual credentials, and maybe she'll actually accomplish something in her life. But in truth, now, Susan KATZ, she's an investigative journalist and a popular blogger. Well, she doesn't do so much blogging now, but she specializes in national security. She is a former, dig this, folks, she is a former Washington Times reporter. She's the author of Prisoners of Hope, Exploiting the POW-MIA Myth in America from Random House, and a whole bunch of books for younger readers. So as a People magazine correspondent, she covers all sorts of stories. She covered Virginia Tech, the Fort Hood shootings, the SEAL assault on Osama bin Laden, and this is also very, very astounding. Her work has appeared in Reader's Digest, the New York Times, Air and Space Smithsonian, the American Legion, VFW, Soldier of Fortune, and by God, we're going to get to that, and a whole bunch of other publications. She's been cited in the New Yorker, the Wall Street Journal, Salon, and a bunch of other journals. She is a founding trustee for the National Museum of Americans in wartime. She serves on the board for Cooking with the Troops. She briefly was in the U.S. Women's Army Corps, where she earned her expert rating on the M16 rifle. She was editor of the Dixon Tribune newspaper in California, director of the Travis Air Force Base Museum, and this is another cool part, which I sure as shit would love to have done myself. She served as a restoration crew chief on a B-52. She belongs to this is, again, way cool. She belongs to the Association of Former Intelligence Officers, or AFIO. And like I said before, someday Susan KATZ will actually accomplish something in her life. So with all that having been said, I say welcome, Susan KATZ, to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Welcome aboard.
Oh my God, BZ, I just had to take my phone off mute. I was laughing so hard listening to this. I love all that stuff that I did. That's really...
if
the Apache pilot stuff was great. I love that.
Yeah, you should be proud of yourself for having done all that stuff. I haven't done just a wee little winkly fraction of that.
Well, this is absolutely wonderful, and I'm entering your introduction into the, award competition for Best Intro of the Year. So, hi, thank you for having me on. It's great to be...
It's been grand. Now, the sad thing is, and this is my pouty face, the sad thing is that I haven't had you on for a while, and the real truth is you live way over on the East Coast, and I'm way, way, way over here on the left coast, and the time discrepancy is not conducive to a lot of live stuff. And so when I have the opportunity to actually talk to you, it is an absolute treat and a pleasure. Now, that having been said, you just recently told me that you're sort of an itinerant nomad. So what are some of the things that you're doing today? I mean, you still write. You write like crazy. I know that. You had a blog. I think you took your blog down. You don't have your blog up. But if people want to read you or find out where you may be in social media, where would they go to find out stuff about you or read some of the stuff that you write?
Well, you know where I sort of curate a lot of this stuff is on my LinkedIn. So I'm not sure what the actual link is, but if you just search me on LinkedIn, Susan Katz Keating, you can add me and I'll accept you. Or you could. I have a Facebook writer fan page.
Okay.
And I've got my Twitter feed.
Okay.
So each time I write something for, I think my last piece was for Soldier of Fortune, and then I do a lot of stuff for People Magazine and for Real Clear Investigations. So all that stuff goes up there.
Okay. Let's start there. Let's start at the start. Okay, so not long ago, I don't know, maybe a day or two or three or something like that, I saw you on Twitter, and you said, or maybe it was even Facebook, I don't remember which media, but you said something similar to, I'm out with Robert Brown. And I think I sent you a reply or a question. Is that the Robert K. Brown of Soldier of Fortune? And yes, it was. So what the heck was going on with you and Robert Brown, the publisher of Soldier of Fortune?
Nothing good. He's my longtime partner in crime, and he is one of my very, very, very first editor/publishers. I have been with him for, well, I've lost my birth certificate, so I forget exactly when I started, but I was a kid pretty much when I started with Soldier of Fortune. Way, 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 way back in the way back. So I've been writing for him, on and off for, since I was a child.
Okay. Well, that would, if I'm tickling my brain appropriately here, I used to subscribe to SOF, and I think that was in the 80s. And I couldn't even tell you right now, is Soldier of Fortune still published?
They do, but they publish online. I think, they're moving forward with the times, and everybody else is going online, so what the heck? SOF is doing it too, and they've got a really good online presence.
Okay. Because I used to read their stories of fun and adventure, and they go all around the world, and now I have to say, that's you now.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because, truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more, all in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
You are the itinerant nomad. You do go all around the world. I don't think there's probably a continent that you haven't visited, would be my guess. So what are some of the projects that you've got going on these days?
Well, a very mundane project is I'm writing a memoir of my beginnings with Soldier of Fortune, is how it all started, because things were so different back then, just for journalists in general, and just, how we went and did. So I'm working on a memoir on my Soldier of Fortune beginnings and the very early days.
And you, because of, we joked about this before the show, and I said, I bet you have a big damn go bag so that if somebody goes, SKK, can you go fill in the blank? And you say yes, and you grab your go bag and boom, you're out the door. That's your life now, isn't it?
I'm looking at my go bag right now. It's actually a really nice go bag. And can I get in a word from my sponsor? Because it was donated to me for a purpose. It's military luggage gave me a couple of go bags to try out. So I'm trying out my favorite one right now, which is it has lots of pockets, which for me is like really cool. So yeah, I've got my go bag, and I keep a separate bag for my laptop. For some reason, it's probably not efficient, but yeah. So I keep my wardrobe down to some really nice hiking pants. Those are the stretchy hiking pants, right? That kind of cargo pants, and then a revolving wardrobe of tank tops and T-shirts, and a few jackets, and everything is either like black or tan or muted color, right? Because it doesn't show the dirt, and you could match it with everything, and have a vest with a bunch of pockets in it. And if I get the call, yeah, okay, yes, I can go. I'm off.
How cool would that be? You're leading the life right now that people in their teens and maybe early 20s would love to lead, because you literally are going all over the place. Now, I noted that there aren't any Arctic parkas in there, but anyway, there aren't people blowing up Antarctica or the Arctic right now.
I figure I kind of had better do it while I can. I do not want to wind up, in the rocking chair with my cats or whatever, I have to keep saying, I wish I'd done that hobo thing years ago when I had the chance. So I thought, it does have its challenges. I will say it's not for everyone because, you don't always have the best food on handy, so I have to keep a little supply of my sustenance with me, right? And mail is a bit of an issue, but for the most part, it's phenomenal. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah. How liberating would that be? Well, we talked about projects. What are some of the projects that you might be working on right now?
Well, the big one is the Soldier of Fortune memoir. That's my main one right now, and I'm having a whole lot of fun with that. So I'm getting into, like people have asked me, how did you get started with Soldier of Fortune anyway?
Yeah, because that doesn't seem to lend itself to. I know you cover the military, and I know you cover intelligence matters, but getting into Soldier of Fortune, it would seem like that would have been a rather sort of closed clique from the very beginning. So how did you kind of find Robert K. Brown? And because I noticed that he had a cadre of people that consistently wrote for him over the years. And how did you kind of get into that group?
Well, it was actually kind of funny. Do your listeners know that you and I have known each other for a long time?
I don't know, but they do now.
Okay, so we've known each other. We were in college together.
Yes, we were. Okay. Miscreants.
We had a radio station together, and we did a little publication. But do you remember, by chance, that little apartment that I had in Davis?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact, yes.
Okay, so here's what I did. I wanted to write about mercenaries. I thought, this is a cool story. I wanted to break into journalism in a splashy way, and I was like, what's a good feature I could do? So I thought, I want to write about mercenaries. So what I did was I put an ad in Soldier of Fortune, and it said, are you a mercenary? And I put my address of that apartment in my ad.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. 801 J Street apartment, whatever it was. So I put my address in, and it said, are you a mercenary? So I got, like, boom, boom, boom. Several things happened, one of which was a visit from some employees of the federal government.
That was my next question, whether they saw that and went, I wonder what she means by this.
Well, yes, they did. And I also got a whole lot of letters from people thinking that I was hiring a mercenary. So I got all these responses, like, in fact, buckets of responses from would-be mercenaries. And I just put KATZ. So they thought I was some guy who was hiring, and,
right.
The feds thought that I'm violating what was the Hatch Act or whatever. So I got all these responses, and I thought, I'll see if Soldier of Fortune wants a story on this. So I wrote to Soldier of Fortune, and I said, hey, do you want a story on me soliciting mercenaries? And Bob Brown got back to me, and he said, that's really a stupid idea for a story. It sounds boring, but if you come up with anything, let me know. And then that kind of sat. And then when I got the job at the Washington Times, I was smuggling a painting back into the Pentagon, which is another side story. And I was in the lobby waiting for a friend of mine to drive me to get this smuggled painting.
Okay.
And lo and behold, who's in the lobby but Robert Brown? And I asked him, hey, you're Bob Brown. Do you remember me? I wrote to you. And he goes, no. And I said, do you need a lift? So he needed a lift into Georgetown, and we stuffed him in the back of this Porsche. Like, so, you know how they had the hatchbacks?
Right.
So, like, my friend was test driving these cars. He wrote about them. So we stuffed Bob Brown in the back, and, like, he was crammed up, right, folded into this hatchback thing, and his head was inches from mine, and I thought, this is my chance. I said, you know...
It's a captive audience.
Right. And I said, you ever have, hold on, this announcement from the local Air Force base is coming through. I'll move somewhere more quiet. Anyway, so he said, you remind me of my ex-wife, which I took to be a compliment, and I found out later that she'd been in a motorcycle wreck and she used this hellion. Anyway, so long story short, we dropped him off in Georgetown. I picked up the painting, smuggled it into the Pentagon, and then that night went to a Soldier of Fortune party with all of these rebels and Mosquito Indians hanging out, and I just went from there.
Well, if that isn't a story, I don't know what the hell is. And I remember the story about the smuggled painting, which is why, you know, let's be honest, for fuck's sake, the book that you're going to write about Soldier of Fortune is one that I would certainly pick up. And when you publish it, you got to let me know where that is so that I can get myself a copy, because that's an incredible story in the first place. Well, you're a journalist. You've been writing for a long time. You got your start. You kind of got your chops going in Dixon for a real small newspaper there. And you said you went over to the Washington Times. What, in sort of general, because of all the things about fake news and blah, 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 do you have any sort of generic thoughts about, hey, what is the state of the art in journalism, at least in the United States today?
Well, I do have some thoughts on that. It's evolved, I think, quite a bit from my very early days. And, you know, like when you and I were doing campus journalism,
right,
we had a particular mindset, which was, you know, we could not be biased and we couldn't have affiliations. And I remember when I was at the Dixon Tribune, you know, my first editor, before I became the editor, said, I just want you to know you can't register for a political party, you can't join any clubs, you can't vote, you can't be affiliated with anything. You have to be a neutral person, and you have to keep yourself apart from what you're reporting on so that you won't be biased. And I took that to heart, this whole notion of you really do have to be an unbiased chronicler of human events. And then over the years, you know, I've seen that attitude drift away among my fellow journalists, and there are still a lot of us. I think most journalists now will register to vote, or they will join, you know, a club somewhere. But what I've noticed is that a lot of journalists in the big legacy media outlets, especially, they don't really try too hard to hide their bias. So that to me is a big change, and I've seen that evolve over the years. And if you're at a cocktail party, or, you know, gathering with your friends down at IHOP or whatever you do to socialize, you can have opinions, and that's what we're all about in this country is, you know, freedom of thought and,
right,
and association. But if you are expressing those opinions in your news reporting, and if you allow them to color your reporting, then I think you need to back away from that and not cover that subject.
What an absolutely astounding, refreshing, insightful, and I hate to say it now, but you correct me if it's wrong. That's old school journalism, and I'm not trying to say anything about the age of you and me because we're not in our 20s anymore. but it's a hell of a comment about the state of journalism today. That to do this, to be this this honest with as much clarity, it really sets you as an individual journalist apart from the bunch of other people and the other journalists themselves. Now, since we're kind of on the topic of journalism and what passes for journalism today, what do you think about the public attitude about Trump, say, for example, President Trump, as expressed in the media?
Well, I think that, again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And you and I both are, yay, we're all about individuality and you can have your views. But if the media, if people clearly dislike Trump, for whatever reasons, they should not be covering him. And I'll give you an example of something that actually did happen. When Trump was sworn in,
okay.
I covered that inaugural for People magazine. I was their front person for the inaugural, which meant that I got to go inside with the media room, and I was with all the big media people covering Trump. And it got really cold, so we went inside and we watched portions of it. And the swearing in we saw outside, but afterwards we went inside in the small room and watched portions of it. And some of my colleagues were, I thought, very professional, and they were very, neutral, sticking to the facts, just covering the story in a straightforward way. Some of them were openly dismissive and mocking and disdainful toward Trump, which, again, if I heard that at a party, I'd say, okay, you have your opinion. But because they were covering the story, I felt that they should have recused themselves from the story. And yet there was, there was no sense that they should. No one else. And I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't want to get into that kind of a discussion among my colleagues at that time. But no one else said, "Hey, you're not being neutral here. You're not being a fair observer." And again, I totally understand people liking or disliking a particular candidate
Sure.
for whatever their.
Sure.
But when that prompts you to go overboard, like some of the criticisms I've seen of Trump in the media, you have to boil down to, okay, what exactly is he doing that they don't like? Like, what specifically don't they like about him? And I think a lot of what, there are some policies they don't like, but what they don't like specifically is they just don't like him.
Yes.
And I think, and he's an outsider. And I think part of the disdain is, here's somebody who's completely outside the whole political norm, and he's outside the system, and he's come in, and he's really, turned things over. It was phenomenal that he actually prevailed and that he won this election. So I think part of that is the sense of, we don't like this outsider coming in and messing with our system. But also part of it is that they just don't like him. It's a personality thing.
Well, I would submit that it's a great deal to do with style and, yes, being an outsider. Now, a lot of people that are, it's a very inclusive, sort of inculcated, funny little incestuous thing that DC has and the media have. And it's very regional, like the Northeast people. You have to know all the right people, like you say, all the right cocktail parties, etc. And the funny thing is, he's still considered an outsider, though he's a New York kind of guy, which it couldn't be more Northeast than that. And in the past, he's gotten involved in some politics. When he's laid money down, he's laid money pretty much on both sides. He's laid money on the kind of the GOP side, and he's laid money down for the Democrats as well. fairly equally, as far as I know. But yeah, I completely agree with that assessment. And having said that, though, the sad thing about journalism is that if you don't have a bias against Trump, some other journalists may tend to look down upon those who are trying to be as fair as possible. Let's stop it right there, folks. We're going to take a break. You're listening to Susan Katz Keating, Hour 1 of the Tough Female Journalists episode of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Let's come right back after this.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplains.talkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m., right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, who's going to take Sean's chair?
I'll run the buttons if you want.
The what?
The slider thingies. Those
what?
Things.
We have those?
Yeah, right over there.
Where?
It's on the board. That damn technology.
Fucking technology.
I know. What are we going to call it?
Call what?
The show.
What?
The show.
What show?
The new show, Wednesdays. Every Wednesday on shrmedia.com. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Sackheads.
Against tyranny.
There you go.
Against tyranny.
I like that. Let's do it.
You guys are porked.
Hello. I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back. This is the second half hour with Susan Katz-Keating. I think she's an incredible person and has great articles. So I'll tell you what. Without further ado, or like I say, maybe with a little bit of ado, maybe dippity-doo, let's continue talking with Sue. It's almost as though fair has gone out the door. And that leads me to my next question. The Bill of Rights, and more specifically with regard to journalists, which is where you come in, the First Amendment. I don't think I have ever seen the First Amendment come under fire so negatively and so scurrilously as it is being these days on way altogether too many levels. I got to ask the question, the fundamental question, do you kind of fear for the First Amendment?
Oh boy, that is a super loaded question. Wow. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
I do. I have to be honest, especially on college campuses.
Well, and that's actually, I think, a real hotbed of it.
Oh, that's a massive hotbed.
Yeah. I have this very deep-rooted love of America, and I believe in this country.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in this country. And I think maybe a part of me is saying, oh, this is America, this couldn't happen. These are anomalies. But on the other hand, I have to be very realistic and say, there's some thought control, or there's some, thought policing going on that's really ugly. It's scary. A part of me wants to say, okay, it's going to be fine. The Constitution will prevail. The American people will prevail. But, I also see things like, a kid's hat getting ripped off because someone doesn't like his hat. If that's, he's not a journalist, but he's allowed to wear a hat that he wants to. There's nothing wrong with that. That's protected speech. But more and more, I think people are feeling somehow impelled to say, okay, we're going to take control. You can't do that because morals are so imperative right now that we can act. And
I find it a very sad state of affairs, and I have to be honest, I do fear for the First Amendment because all it would take is the proper combination, in my opinion, all it would take is the proper combination of jurists and situation for someone to make some kind of a what I would consider to be an arbitrary decision, and the First Amendment, I unfortunately feel, could find itself in some serious jeopardy. It's already in serious jeopardy on college campuses, which is where you and I grew up in a time on college where free speech was the thing. We had the ability to utilize free speech. If we wanted to get out and protest, we could do that. If we wanted to get 4 orange cars together and a band and point out how some of the political stuff that was going on campus was really stupid, we could do that as well. We had the ability to speak our mind, and at no time, I'm sure, not for me, or I'm guessing for you as well, at no time did I ever think about, my speech is okay. The speech of that person over there, that's just wrong. And additionally, I'm going to do my very level best to make sure that I quash whatever it is that he or she is saying over there. I've never seen a time like this before. I've never seen a time like this.
I never had that fear when you and I were in college.
No.
It never crossed my mind. And you and I did something. So we saw some pretty silly and goofy stuff. We had this radio show. We had, what was the Intellect Jewel, which was a friggin' scream.
Yeah, it was. I still have copies.
No way.
I do.
Serious?
Oh, yeah.
No.
I've got probably 8 or 9 copies.
Oh, those are collector's items. Don't lose those.
I know. They're worth, last I had them appraised, they were worth about $28,000.
I don't have one copy. I don't have a single copy. And
Okay.
dear listeners, your listeners know about the intellectuals? Do they know what it was?
No.
We did. Okay, all right, listeners, think of The Onion, only funnier, edgier. We were the original college kid Onion.
That's pretty much it. That's a pretty damn good summary about that.
And the name was brilliant.
I love that, too.
God, it was brilliant.
You know, it actually took me. There was another dude that was involved in that, and I'm going to say his name. He's not going to be listening, but it was Richard K. Carson, who started that.
I was going to ask you about him. Where is he now?
My last check is that he's somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest. Washington, or some of the islands around Washington, is my last thought. That's the last. He had a blog, not necessarily a blog or a website, and now when I get on the internet, I don't even see him up there anymore. So I really don't know. But at last check, he was way up in the Pacific Northwest.
Was he still writing?
I don't see anything. Okay. And if there was one guy, would you agree with me? And folks that are listening live or folks that are listening in podcast, I'm sure you know someone in the process of either growing up in high school or in college, or maybe he or she was the person that you worked next to on a job. But do you know the guy or the gal who is so damn intelligent they use multisyllabic words all the time? Maybe you've seen examples of their writing, or you know that their wit is just like boom, 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 boom. They're on it all the time. This is that guy. Richard Carson was that guy, and it was fun as fuck to work with him.
And he was so unassuming. He was very misleading because he's also, the other part of him is, you look at this guy and you keep on looking. He was the guy nobody noticed. He was the quiet kid sitting in the corner.
Yep.
Who everybody just ignored because he was so quiet, kept to himself, blinking. He would sit there blinking, and then every now and then he'd pop off with some phenomenally hilarious comment, and you realize, while we're ignoring him, he's paying really close attention to everybody else.
His brain was burbling 24/7. That's it was on. It was never off. Okay, we got about I think we got about 10 minutes left or so. So let me see if I can get to some other topics. You write about the military, and you also write about intelligence issues. So in a big sort of umbrella fashion, and I don't even necessarily want to take it back to like one administration, the previous administration versus the current administration, but I know for a time the various branches of the military were in some very serious dark straits. So in overall, would you say the state of the art in the U.S. military, can we look forward? Can we what do you see possibly for its current status and or its future?
I see it as a very robust, thriving organization, and I've been on the ground with these people at different levels, from the Pentagon down to the guy who takes care of the engine room on an aircraft carrier at sea.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cohesive group. These are fantastic people. A lot of them, but they're kids, but they're young people, and they're dedicated. They're honest. Like, we've got an incredible manpower, woman power, whatever you want. We've just got a great force. My one concern that has been a concern of mine for a long time is the proper use of our troops and the military.
There you go.
My bugaboo is the rules of engagement, and I think we see people coming back from war and their lives are forever changed. And the obvious ones are people missing limbs, but also people who've been through some shit. And my greatest concern is rules of engagement. If we're going to use our troops, use them effectively and with purpose, don't just hamstring them. Don't tie their hands behind their backs and say, okay, well, we're going to send you to war, and by the way, if the enemy fires on you, you can't fire back unless you can determine X, Y, and Z. And the rules of engagement change. And like in Vietnam, there were maddening rules of engagement for air combat and ground combat as well. Yep. So my big wish for the military is, you know what? We are the best trained, best equipped force in the world. Let's use them properly. Don't hamstring them. Use them effectively, incisively, or don't do it.
Would you, Susan Katz-Keating, SKK, would you say that could be distilled down to the classic military statement, and that's this, and I wish more presidents and other people in positions of power would adhere to this. The military exists for two things, to break shit and kill people. And if you're not willing to break shit and kill people, they shouldn't be applied. It's as simple as that, in my humble opinion. The military should not be the progressive petri dish, and it should not be distilled down to some kind of a social experiment. You do that every other place except your military powers. Tell me, please, where I'm wrong on that.
I'm looking and I don't see where you're wrong. It's really not a place for that. It really isn't. It's a place for national defense. That's what it's all about. The most effective use of national defense. And I don't really think that we need to focus on individual small needs of various people who want to be promoted or, do well in their careers. What we should care about is the defense of the nation. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters.
This just popped into my brain, and if you could talk about this for maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, that'd be great. I can remember that you did either a series of articles or a series of blog pieces in I think it was the early or mid-2000s, and it happened to be about a U.S. Navy captain, and it was regarding a massive abuse of power. That instance just happened to be a female captain, but it could easily apply to any captain as well. And she had a fiefdom, and eventually she pissed off enough people that her kingdom was taken down. And if that's where I first understood what you were saying and how supportive you were of the U.S. military, because the military is bigger than just one person like her. So essentially, can you go over the sort of an overarching circumstance of what she did and what happened to her?
Well, her name was Holly Graf, and her initials are HAG, Holly Ann Graf, and they called her the Sea Hag, which I thought, was an expression of what her sailors thought of her. She was a captain aboard a ship, and she ran it They described her as a tyrant. She was described by her sailors as an abusive personality, and people wrote to me documenting the types of things she did, throwing coffee cups at people and, walking around in pink fuzzy slippers. And she abused her authority. And the way it came across was that for her, it was all about the power. It wasn't so much about, the sailors or the Navy or the ship. It was about her. So thank goodness the Navy paid attention, because a lot of the sailors complained over and over and over again. They gave specifics, and the Navy finally, it takes a while to get these things rolling, but they launched an investigation and they relieved her of duty. So she then went before a captain's mast, and she had a very good defender, and she did not lose her retirement, but she didn't get another command. and I believe she's out of the Navy, and I think she's in the civilian world now, but don't hold me to that. But she was never sent. She didn't go back out to sea, so she was not allowed to go back into that kind of position where she could abuse authority again. But it was egregious and it was extreme. I mean, some of it was actually, like, if you read these stories, you couldn't help but laugh. Like, you really couldn't help but laugh. But if you and I, or, listeners, if you're on that ship under those circumstances, we wouldn't be laughing. We would be calling our congressman or our, mom and dad saying, get me out of here, anything.
She was sort of the female equivalent of Captain Queeg, in a way.
That's what they compared her to Captain Queeg.
Yeah, I'm not shocked at all. President Trump is in Europe right now, and there's become an issue of Europe basically paying its fair share. In NATO, European NATO members are expected to pay, I think it's either 2%, 2.5%, or whatever it is. It's close to 2% of your annual GDP to NATO. And the European nations have not been paying this for years and years and years. So in general, do you think that NATO will change as a result of President Trump bringing some of these errors or miscalculations to their attention? Will NATO continue to remain strong? Or maybe even this general question, do we still need NATO?
That question has been brought up quite a bit. And when Ash Carter was SecDef, I was with him, and Dunford was there when a reporter asked that same question, do we need NATO? And they came back, very strongly and said we do. But I think NATO will bristle at being asked to contribute more. However, I mean, to me, it's kind of the analogy of, the 25-year-old who's living in mom's basement who's suddenly told, by the way, you have to mow the lawn.
Yeah,
right?
Get out and get a job, damn it.
Right. And the kid says, what? And then figures out, actually, they're right. And I've spent time talking to NATO military partners, and they're really, really good at what they do. They're dedicated. They're united. They support us. We support them. However, we're not the money bags here, or we shouldn't be.
No.
What's our responsibility to keep them afloat? I think we should still work together with the NATO countries, and we should have NATO, but I don't think it's our responsibility to sustain NATO.
I couldn't agree more. We're getting close to go time, and there were so many other issues that I wanted to talk about. And maybe I'll distill some of the other questions that I had. For example, we were going to talk about Iran. I wanted to talk about that. So maybe I can bump it up a few levels and say this. The final question would be, what security issue keeps you up at night?
Oh, boy. There are actually a couple that keep me up at night. One of them is terrorists, or I don't even like to call them terrorists because they're enemy actors. Okay.
Okay.
So there are a lot of enemy actors slipping in to Europe, and I believe into this country also under the guise of being political refugees. So that troubles me very much, especially in Europe, because I think they've gone in very deeply, and I don't know how deeply they've come in here. So, I don't know where the various cells are. That concerns me very much, because I think that our first responder responses could quickly be overwhelmed given the right set of circumstances. So that keeps me up. And the other thing is the power grid, because the power companies will tell you that they intercept attempts on the power grid on a regular basis. Someone, you can imagine anyone, pick an enemy, is trying to attack the power grid, and then you have to ask that question. If they are successful in attacking the power grid, how much food do you have that's not in a refrigerator? How much water do you have access to that's not dependent on a pump? How quickly would our social structure fall apart with a prolonged lack of electricity? So that worries me very much.
I would have to completely concur. And much of what you're talking about is by way of either, I'm guessing, you're talking about internal hacking, perhaps even a physical plant attack itself, or there's the issue of the EMP, the electromagnetic pulse, which if you were to detonate, say, some kind of a nuclear device in the air or locally, the EMP from the resulting explosion tends to fry a lot of electronic equipment, and in many cases, you're not going to get any of that stuff back, especially if you're talking about electric power plant transformers, etc., which are extremely expensive, take a year or more to build, and the bulk of them are built in Germany, not in the United States. Lovely.
Yeah. Does everybody have their Ambien handy for tonight, or your glass of wine or whiskey? It actually is very frightening. And I would say maybe 10 years ago, if you and I had talked like that, people would say, "Oh, like what a bunch of nuts they are! Like listen to them; they're so paranoid." But it's not paranoia. It's actually a legitimate scenario. The whole EMP scenario, as you mentioned, it's huge and it's long lasting.
It is exactly that. Folks, we have been talking to Susan KATZ-Keating, SKK, and I have absolutely, without a doubt, enjoyed the time. The time has gone like, boom, quick, done. Again, in retrospect now, can you tell folks where can you be found and maybe a little bit about what you might be anticipating doing in the future to include writing your book?
LinkedIn, Susan KATZ-Keating LinkedIn, and I'm sorry I forget the link. I have a Facebook fan page, and of course I'm on Twitter, all under the Susan KATZ-Keating name. And then you can see like what I've done for American Media Institute, for U.S. News and World Report, in my various clients, People Magazine and others. And then, right now I'm writing in sociology. My big issue right now. Like my shoulders get cramped from writing all day. And I will be, continuing that and doing the Soldier of Fortune memoir. And then I'm going to be writing about Operation Hobo, my journey through itinerant nomadism.
Yeah, you're sort of the 21st century Bedouin with a go bag.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Steal away.
Oh, thank you. This is awesome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we have been talking to Susan KATZ-Keating. It has been an honor and a pleasure. I'd love to have you back anytime. I'm sure that, the doors are always open to you here in the saloon. It's been a wonderful time, and I am definitely going to get you back, if I may, with your permission.
Oh, I would love to come back. You know what? You're right. The time has flown by. I had no idea it would go by this quickly, and this has been really fun. You're, as always, a wonderful conversationalist, a raconteur, and a keen observer of world events. So I would love to come back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I love that word, raconteur. I like that a lot. Folks, that's been Susan KATZ-Keating, here, live and direct, on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny, on SHRmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. SHRmedia.com. Be there.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The Right Guy on SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, who's going to take Sean's chair?
I'll run the buttons if you want.
The what?
The slider
the
thingies. Those
what?
Things.
We have those?
Yeah, right over there.
Where?
It's on the board. That damn technology.
Fucking technology.
I know. What are we going to call it?
Call what?
The show.
What?
The show.
What show?
The new show, Wednesdays. Every Wednesday on SHRmedia.com. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Sackheads.
Against tyranny.
There you
Against
go.
Against tyranny.
I like that. Let's do it.
You guys are porked.
Hello. I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires, due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network, to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the SHR Media studios. Less than 2 miles, or approximately 2 miles, give or take a couple of inches, for Christ's sake, from the Bill Mill, the capital of the state of Fornicalia, here in Sacramento. And that's where we broadcast. That's where the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Studios are. Sacramento. I was born and raised here. How sad. Now, I don't live here. My wife lives here. I have a home 90 miles that way. You can't see where I'm pointing. Well, yeah, you can. I'm pointing to the thin blue line flag, which is new in the studio. And I live 90 miles that way, up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And when she was talking about by the way, we just had Susan KEATING on the air, and I appreciate her showing up. And next, because it's Tough Female Journalists Night here in the saloon, I have the ever-effervescent KARI Baxter Donovan, who in a moment or two I'm going to ask a very important question. But in the meantime, let's say hello to KARI Baxter Donovan, whom I quantify as my East Coast political goddess. Good evening, KARI Baxter Donovan.
Oh, you spoil me. You always do. How are you tonight?
Great. It's my job. I found out about you from, I think it was Sackhead Sean, and you had done some, I hadn't heard you very much. You came in on, let's see, I think you were on the election night special in 2016 on SHR here?
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Yep.
Sackhead Sean said that you also came in and you gave updates with other elections, and that's kind of where they found you. Would that be correct?
I think so. That seems like a long time ago. It feels like a million years ago. Yeah. Right. I feel like I met Sean before that, but I can't remember exactly.
Anyway, I quantified tonight as tough female journalists. Susan KATZ I had on. She's been working in the journalism venue for quite some time. She comes from old school print journalism. That's what she grew up on. And she's got she's got an ass ton of stories. Oh my God. Now, I'm sorry. This is a little inside baseball. Demi the studio cat was rubbing up against my legs about 5 minutes or so ago. And I noticed that she just meowed. So generally that means that something needs to be taken care of, but I'm going to wait until she looks me right in the eyeballs and makes a meow again. But I may be leaving the microphone in just a moment to let her out. But that having been said, you and I spoke a little bit earlier tonight before we got on the air in order to chat about some of the things that we'd be speaking of. And the first item up to bid is you've changed your venues a bit. So you now are going to be something new happened for you. I'll tell you what, let me not Bigfoot you. I'd like you to tell everybody something new happened. What is it and what occurred?
Well, so what happened was we expanded the Populous Wire to we're at Populous-Media. And so my partner and I am now a business owner. We have an LLC, Populous Media LLC. And we are getting ready to start some things like some foundations, get some donations. So we had to get all of those legal papers in order. And we expanded the platform over to populous-media.com. And I'm hoping to really use that platform to mentor some citizen journalists. And, most of the topics that I deal with are cultural Marxism, campaigning. I'm very interested in what Steve Bannon is talking about with his global populism. Mm-hmm. He's calling his thing the movement. This is all kind of coming under this umbrella of populism, and so now we are at Populous Media, and I now have a business LLC, Populous Media LLC.
I think that is so damn cool. Now, Sackhead Sean and Sackheads Clint are the co-owners of the SHR Media Group, and there was a third, and that person has since parted ways with them. But things get all different when you're an owner, and obviously you did this because you really want to jump into the thing with both feet. But that having been said, is there a little bit of trepidation in terms of, stop, let me back up a little bit. You told me about some goals that you had with this. So what are some of the goals that you have with, by the way, the website that I'm looking at? They're on Twitter. I just liked them on Twitter or followed them on Twitter. And the website is P Media. It's got a really simple but very effective header at the top. It's populist-wire.com. So if you want to go there, it's populist-wire.com, and it says P Media. And whoever designed your site, kudos to them. I think it's a very engaging site, and it looks different from a lot of the other stuff, and that's why I like it.
Well, I thank you very much. So my partner is a veteran, first of all, so I love him. He's fantastic. He's also a nuclear engineer, so he's a genius. He's a very smart guy, and he is the one who's doing all of the technical stuff. And he knows how to do all of those things. I can barely turn the site on. The poor man, he gets a couple texts from me a day. How do I do this? How do I do that? So I'm writing the articles right now and finding the citizen journalists, and he's doing all of the technical stuff. He set that website up. He's fantastic, and I have him to thank for all of the very cool stuff there, and all the little toys that I get to play with in the back of the dashboard, or what we call the dashboard. And so, yeah, he's really the sort of the driving force of the business. Well, if you were saying, is there any trepidation? Well, hey, I'm just writing the articles and finding interesting people. He's doing all of the heavy stuff. He's a man. It's good for him.
Well, you tell him that I think he did a hell of a job on the web or on the website, because as opposed to some of the other websites that I've seen, that I'm sorry, I'm not going to name names, but you can think of them. Some of them look just cheap and superficial, and they have, oh God. Would these people please stop with the damn ads about toe fungus? You go to the first damn opening page, and either at the top or plastered in the middle of these damn things is something about toe fungus, and there's some kind of a creepy-looking worm that looks like it's about to go into someone's ear.
Yeah, and it's like, why? You have to wonder, like, well, who is this appealing to? But they continue to keep using it everywhere.
Yeah,
I know.
Just stop with this crap. Good God. It's grossing everyone out. Good Lord.
So gross.
Oh, well, let me.
Well, so what we want to do is. Oh, I'm sorry.
What I was going to do is say that by the subheadings that you have here, this is an indicator that you guys, you look as though you're trying to be really comprehensive. For example, some of the topics in the subheaders are government, world, culture, business, education, border, crime, entertainment, and then I'm guessing one of your favorites, grassroots activities, local news, and media. So you've broken this down, and somebody's done some really serious thinking about this. Eventually, where would you like to take this?
Well, so what we're trying to do right now is anything that we can do to build up the platform, meaning getting people's eyes on us, people to follow us, to use us as a news source. So the hope is that we'll be cultivating some citizen journalists, some activists, some grassroots organizers, to write about what their passion is. Because we believe that the activists really have so much more to say than the journalists do. So when we say citizen journalist, it's somebody who didn't necessarily go to school to learn journalism, but actually has a passion for school boards in their community, or taxpayer rights, or whatever the issue is. And so the hope is that we're going to go and find those people and then teach them some things, that might help them in boosting an article or something, and then be able to provide them with a huge platform. So, because that's what usually holds people like you back, citizen broadcaster, is how do you get the audience? And especially with Google and Facebook and Twitter, stomping on conservative voices.
Working
we need someone
against
like my partner who knows how to go around that stuff and build up a platform. So it's aimed at taking down the media maggots, as you call them, taking their power away from them and giving it back to the people, which is a populist concept. And so that's why it would be under the umbrella of, the populist media. But we need to hear from the people, because the Americans, when they have a passion for something, we have such a great educational system. We have access to so many resources. We are top notch in whatever it is that we're fascinated with, and so we have to go find those people and give them a platform and hear what they have to say. And so that's what we're hoping to do.
With luck, you'll give me the liberty to make this next statement. It would seem to me that with all the things that you've done in your life, and you've done a ton, and you have been a community organizer on your own level, as opposed to somebody that we know of from Chicago. But it would seem to me that all of the things that you've done in your life, and please correct me if I'm wrong, have led you now to this point. So to me, it seems like this is the most logical terminus of all of the things that you've done, that you bring to the table. Writing, photography, folks, I'm going to say it again. Maybe KARI Baxter Donovan gets tired of me saying it. If you haven't been to her Facebook page, or if you haven't been to her on Twitter at Happit, Happit 1776, she also is a hell of a photographer as well. So, again, those are great skills to bring, because she can write, she can take photographs. So those are key, essential elements to being a journalist, particularly at a time when the bigger media is dying out. In the past 10 years, I read recently, the big newsrooms have been bled about 49% of personnel. There's the only remaining newspaper in Sacramento. I live in the capital of all of California, Sacramento. There used to be two newspapers that competed well. There's only one. This thing leans so far left, and I mean that's your audience. That's who you have in Sacramento. Despite that, they're calling for people for another couple of $100,000, and they can keep pumping out the shit from the Sacramento Bee newspaper. And if they're begging people for $200,000, that tells me they're not far from crashing. So if/when they do, nature abhors a vacuum. And you, KARI Baxter Donovan, are already starting to fill an anticipated need, and that to me is very intelligent on your part. And then solidifying it, making it professional, starting out with a great cadre of writers. You've got a blog. You've got somebody that's smart as a whip, just like you. I submit you're making all the right moves at all the right times, because the rest of the mainstream media, or what I term the American media maggots, little by little, bit by bit, they are having their asses handed to them. And so, to me, this is perfect timing for you.
They really are, and part of the reason why is because American citizens are smarter than they are. So they can go and get their own resources and put, lines of data together and come up with a story. And I had been out there writing and talking about, microblogging and doing things for a long time, a really long time. And then I happened upon someone who came from Breitbart, and before that had a career in journalism in Boston, and Neil McCabe. And he taught me a couple of things that made me dangerous, which was how to get some of my stories lined up properly in like an AP style. He taught me a couple of techniques for, for photojournalism that really helped me to take my photography to another level.
Okay.
And so, he gave me an invaluable lesson and helped me. And so that's what I want to do. And I go back to, what we talked about with Andrew Breitbart, and many of his ideas came from other people, David Horowitz and other people, but he was the first person that I knew who really spoke to me when I was a community organizer and told me about this idea of citizen journalism. Now, I don't know if he used those exact words. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But my ideas of citizen journalism go to Andrew Breitbart and, of course, Steve Bannon, who helped him with Breitbart News. But what I like to say is, as much as I love Breitbart News, and I think that they're a godsend, I think they saved the country, but they don't even do citizen journalism the way that I hope to do it in the future, which is basically going to give back local news. I think local news is very, very important. For example, Second Amendment issues. Those things have to be fought on a local level. They can't be fought at Capitol Hill for all the different states. And if we don't have any outlet for people to talk about their ideas, that's when these media maggots can come in and say, hey, everybody feels this particular way here in New Jersey or wherever. And it's not even somebody who's familiar with the area or talking to the people. We have to restore local news, I think, in order to really cement that we have saved the republic. I think that what President Trump is doing is amazing. I feel very confident that we're on the right path. But I think it's local news. The ability to have a local news restored again is just going to keep that idea of a healthy, our healthy republic going. And so that's what I'm all about. That's where I've gotten the ideas from.
That's an excellent point. And much as it pains me to say this, the loss of the Sacramento Bee, at least temporarily until something else rushes in, is going to be a very serious loss, because I understand and I readily acknowledge that the duty of the press is to question essentially everyone and everything and bring issues to the public forefront so that people are informed about what's occurring in front of them. And here's the huge issue, at least in Sacramento. This has left us central. Without anyone at all monitoring what the fucktards in the state capitol are doing, then they can roll roughshod. Not to say that they aren't already, but they would continue to roll roughshod, even worse, when there's no one to question them at all. And they would feel that they have complete carte blanche to do whatever they want because no one's paying attention. I understand the point that journalism has. The problem is that journalism has lost its ability to be unbiased, and it's everything but apolitical these days.
It's community organizing, and what's happened is somewhere back along the 60s and 70s, Saul Alinsky was allowed to run loose and turn this his demonic ideas into like very cool and hip things, and people were checking out and doing a lot of drugs and all kinds of things. It's really the root of communism, and for whatever reason, it was allowed to happen, and so they didn't take him out behind the barn and kick his butt for what he was doing. He was allowed to really introduce Marxism, communism, these concepts in the minds of young people in churches. Youth groups is where he preyed upon people, and it turned these ideas that were very taboo and he presented it in a very sexy, cool, hip way. And so many of these people who grew up in that generation, that time, they carry those ideas with them. And the press, education, healthcare, we know that the Communist Manifesto is out there. They have taken over the press, and we need to restore that. We need somebody like a Steve Bannon who says, I'm going to take you out behind the woodshed and kick your butt. You're not going to get away with it anymore. And that has going to have to happen. There's going to have to be sort of I'm making air quotes because I'm not calling for violence, but there's going to have to be sort of a upheaval, a civil war upheaval, a pushback. Your pushback, right? A pushback to say we're not going to tolerate it anymore. And I think that tonight is a perfect example of seeing Jim Acosta at the Tampa rally and people screaming at him in his face And of course, he wants to say, oh, it's, President Trump has started this animosity with the press. And I wrote to Jim Acosta and I said, no, I actually remember in 1991 when CNN was lying about using, masks, that they didn't need gas masks. I mean, people have not liked CNN for a very long time, Jim, and somebody's going to have to kick your butt, take you behind the woodshed and tell you, you are a communist. Your propaganda machines have to come down. We've had enough, and start all over again. It's kind of like, 1776. Let's start all over again. And so that's what we have to do. And that's what we have to do with local news and with allowing platforms to carry the message of real Americans. And I've been saying for a long time, and that's sort of a populist thing too, that the country is conservative. The country is not liberal, but they use all of those techniques that they learned, lying, rules for radicals, taking over the media, to make us believe that we were alone and marginalized and that, we weren't cool for being conservative. But the natural order of things in America and liberty is conservatism, or Bill of Rights, Constitution, right? So I think that just going back to what happened with Jim Acosta tonight, he got his butt kicked. And it's going to happen again because people are ripping mad. And now that they've had a little, taste of blood in the water, they're going to go after CNN. And so, I'm very hopeful. I think that it's going to be kind of a fun ride too, because I like to fight anyway. So, but over the next few years, I think we're going to get it back. We're going to get it back together.
I believe we will. By the way, folks, would you like to hear what occurred to Jim Acosta in tonight's Trump rally? Basically, Jim Acosta from CNN was attempting to do a stand-up and do a live shot in a Trump rally. Number one, that's a poor idea in the first place. Apparently, he doesn't have the common sense that God gave a water buffalo. But having said that, this is what occurred in the rally as Jim Acosta attempted to speak from CNN. And if you couldn't tell, that was the crowd saying CNN sucks. And way back in the background, little teeny bit, was Jim Acosta attempting to speak just a little bit. Now, we've got, about another minute before the break. And you were talking about leftists in the American media maggots. I have about a 1 minute audio segment that I want to play, and I want to play this to everybody to show you that this is the kind of quality that that passes for thought by leftists. Listen carefully to what this absolutely ridiculous individual, who is a leftist, and C-SPAN was covering this, happens to say. She really believes this. Listen.
Mr. Albans, would you send your child to FRCs?
Again, I think we're missing the point. These individuals are there because they have broken a law. There has to be a process.
They have broken a law.
Okay, this is Matthew Albence. He's talking about the reunification of immigrant families.
As deemed so by the president with his...
No, ma'am. They're there for violation of Title 8 of the Immigration of the U.S. Nationality Act. They're U.S.C. 1325. That's illegal entry is both a criminal and civil violation. They are in those FRCs pending the outcome of that civil immigration process. They have broken the law.
Well, these are mainly, my understanding is that under zero tolerance, these are no longer civil proceedings, but in fact were criminal proceedings.
They were criminal proceedings when the Border Patrol prosecuted them, but at the conclusion of that process, once the individual came into ICE custody, they would go through administrative proceedings.
I'm confused.
Okay. The criminal proceeding is an individual being prosecuted for the criminal violation of improper entry.
And if you don't know how your very own federal system works, and clearly she doesn't, how can you expect to solve any problems at all? She's saying that it's not a criminal event. It's both criminal and civil. Her federal government helped to write those rules, and she doesn't even realize that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are talking to KARI Baxter Donovan, the East Coast political goddess, live and direct here on the SHR Media studio in the SHR Media Network. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m., right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, who's going to take Sean's chair?
I'll run the buttons if you want.
The what?
The slider
the
thingies. Those
what?
Things.
We have those?
Yeah, right over there.
Where?
It's on the board. That damn technology.
Fucking technology.
I know. What are we going to call it?
Call what?
The show.
What?
The show.
What show?
The new show, Wednesdays. Every Wednesday on shrmedia.com. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Sackheads.
Against tyranny.
There you
Against
go.
tyranny.
I like that. Let's do it.
You guys are port.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the final half hour of the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live and direct from the SHR Media Network. During the break, well, Demi the studio cat let me know quite obviously that she wanted to go outside. She's a calico, and she was a little vocal, and I figured, okay, during the break, that's a perfect time to open the door, and she rocketed out here about Mach 3, so that was a good thing, if you get my drift, so to speak. We're talking to KARI Baxter Donovan. She's the East Coast political goddess, and now she is co-owner of a new website, which will continue to feature citizen journalists. It's called, and you might want to pull out your pen and write this down, it's the site is populist-wire.com. Populist-wire.com. And she is co-owner of that with another individual who is a brain surgeon, a general in the Army, and also knows about nuclear physics, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just say he's a really smart, qualified guy. And, as I said before, the website looks damn skippy. However, these days, though, KARI Baxter Donovan, you're writing basically for three venues right now. So where are you still writing?
Well, so most of my articles will be over there at Populist Media, and I'm still writing for Big League Politics on and off. I think I've done like 5 articles in the last couple of days, but yeah. So they're generous enough to let me put some things up over there, and then over at Populist Media and Populist Wire on occasion. So, but mostly I'll be over there at Populist Media because I really want to build up this platform. I have 2 young girls who are, well, they're not young girls, but they're young women who are going to let me help mentor them as citizen journalists. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time with them over the next couple of months. And they have fascinating stories. I can't wait until they're up and running and they're telling everyone what they know. It is going to be awesome.
Mentoring is a great thing to do, and it's something that altogether way too many industries, businesses, agencies, etc., don't do. In law enforcement, for example, most agencies eat their young, and there's competition. There's competition taking tests for sergeant, for lieutenant, for captain, etc. Just about anyone and everyone can do a damn better job of mentoring people would be my suggestion. And you were talking about populism. These days, how did populism ever manage to come back? Well, let's listen to just a snippet of the dude with the dead orange cat on his head as he was talking tonight at another rally. And this is what this guy, who people say isn't a conservative, you know what, I kind of believe that. He is a populist, though, and this is, again, why the people really dig him.
My only special interest is you, the citizens of the United States. I've had a great career. I've had a lot of fun. Even in Florida, I've had a great career. I've had a lot of fun. I've done great. I've done really well, beyond anything I could have ever expected. And then I ran for president with no experience, and I won. Isn't that interesting?
Which is one of the reasons that absolutely everyone despises this guy, because he had the temerity to step on a lot of feet and push people aside who thought that it just wasn't his turn. It was Hillary Rodham Clinton's turn, and he is despised on every level, basically in the Northeast.
No, you know, in following politics for the last, 20 years or whatever, it's like the things that he's doing are the things that the people have wanted for a very long time. And many of the things that he has pushed through are rooted in conservatism. I'm to the right of Attila the Hun kind of conservative, you know, and
you're
I'm
looking
also
at
a
him.
populist because I do believe that the people are conservative. They might not be to the right of Attila the Hun like I am, because you know I'm a mean person. But you know, I think that why they really don't like him is he took politics back to the people, where so many people were disinterested in politics for good reason, because Republicans are enough to make you want to jump off a bridge if you really had to live under Republican rule the last 20 years. If that's all you had to look forward to forever, you might as well just jump off a bridge, because they were spineless. They were, they were cowards. They were driving everybody crazy. And so now Republicanism is back to sort of working class, concepts of, living by your means, things that bring peace into your life. And so I think why people really say that they hate him are just the only people are politicians and people who have been stirred into a frenzy with, subversive communist propaganda, which is all the media, media maggots. That's all they've been pushing on us. And, like I said, I remember talking about CNN back in 1991. This is not a concept that President Trump brought to us. We have hated that CNN for, Clinton News Network for how long? So I think that he's conservative, and I think that populism, as it is now, is conservative. Is conservatism. That's a hard word, isn't it?
Well,
is being conservative.
Let me ask this question, because depending on who you listen to, and let me go back a little bit. You mentioned the GOP, and we know for a fact now that Trump has been saying that he wouldn't mind recently shutting down the government if he doesn't get the wall funded. And a lot of people on the everyone on the left, and altogether way too many people on the right, are saying something similar to, no, that just can't happen. We can't happen. That can't happen. Well, this is the primary issue that got Donald John Trump elected. And we have the Speaker, Paul Ryan, saying that he's not interested in this. Mitch McConnell occasionally has a spine, but these days primarily not. And these are the two people with the greatest amount of power in the GOP not backing their president of the United States, who ran as a Republican because he is embarrassing them publicly, taking them to task, holding them accountable. Paul Ryan, you should be ashamed of yourself. Mitch McConnell, you should be ashamed of yourself. John McCain, so many things I could say about John McCain. He should be ashamed of himself as well. And all the other rhinos, it's such a trite term to call people on the right rhinos that are Republicans in name only, but it really well and truly fits. These people are used to having their way all the time, and they want what they want when they want it. To McCain, I said a long time ago, you simply should have changed your R to a D and been done with it. You vote primarily way too long with...
They're used to, and they want to take the easy way out of everything because they're cowards, they're lazy, and they're not in it for the country, they're in it for the paycheck. So they want to fall back on, but this is what everybody wants, and I'm really being a centrist. I mean, I'm from North Carolina. We have Tom Tillis, Mr. Centrist, who runs as a Republican, talks about how he's so conservative, and then keeps running to the center and driving everybody crazy. So they want to take the easiest way because they're thinking of their career. They're not thinking of liberty and the concepts that are very important to working people, to parents, to average Americans who don't have access to this political power. And so Trump is turning them on their heads and in giving that power back to the people. That's a very populist, that's a very populist thing. But not only that, he's also unleashing Steve Bannon to go around the world and collect up people and organize. So the entire world has a global populist movement. So now all these leftists can't even say, it's only us, terrible, dirty Americans who are doing these things. It's like, nope, look at Italy. There's a populist government. Oh, look over here, Dutch. They have one. Canada has one. France has them waiting in the wings. The UK has populists, and then there's Steve Bannon, who's going to be cultivating these people, and it's going to be a worldwide movement that they're trying to stop. The elitists, the globalists. And just watching this whole thing happen is kind of funny, I think, because then you get Mitch McConnell, who still can't even stand up and see what's happening. And get on the right side of it. So he has to go. But apparently, and I wrote an article about this, Steve Bannon says, no, you got to vote for the rhinos in 2018 because they're going to try to impeach Trump if we don't. So now we have to vote for the rhinos. But they're losing power. So eventually, one day, we might not have to ever hear that term again.
I feel fairly confident that Judge Kavanaugh will be confirmed as the newest jurist for the Supreme Court. I also feel fairly confident that even before the end of 2020, this would be potentially unprecedented. Donald Trump will, I believe, have the opportunity to appoint or nominate a third SCOTUS jurist. Now, that having been said, I think Kavanaugh will get in, and I'm going to say it might be by a squeaker, like maybe 52, 53 in the Senate. Some people are saying 56, 57. I'm not going to go there. Now, that having been said, it's tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And right now with you, it's already tomorrow. So where you are on the East Coast, it's August 1st. We have all of August. We have September. We have October. And then early November. It's the midterms, baby. So we've got about 2.5, 3 months before the rubber really is going to hit the road. Saying that,
it's going to be crazy.
What do you think is because for a while now, it looked like the point spread between the GOP and the Dems was about 4-5 points, depending on who you listen to. Well, it all depends on who you listen to. Now they're saying that the Dems are probably ahead by about 7, 8, 9 points or so. Do you see anything with putting your prognosticative hat on right now? Do you see something that to you becomes very clear in terms of November?
Well, I think that it's just 2016 all over again, which is we can crush them, but we have to show up in huge numbers.
Thank you.
Because where the Democrats really, really have us over a barrel is their ability to commit voter fraud. And if we don't show up in huge waves to override their voter fraud, then they might get away with it again. They don't have the numbers. They're not a popular party. They haven't been for a long time. They've just been committing fraud. And so, and they've owned the institutions to push through their ideas, and they were able to sit back on their big fat laurels, and they got busted this time. I don't think that they're ever going to be able to make up for it ever again, and commit this kind of massive voter fraud that they have in the last, how many different elections? 2, 3 cycles.
Yeah.
So I think we have to, as long as we show up like it's 2016 and we do it all over again, everything is going to be fine. So what I really feel is we're winning by massive numbers, but we can't say that because if we do, we always have to play like we're a man down and that we're losing and that we have to run up the hill, push the rock up the hill, and we have to go as fast as we can, and we can't give up. We always have to have that on our mind, because if we don't, if we're not vigilant like that, the Democrats are sneaky little communists in their heart, in their soul. That's what they are. And we have to identify them that way. Enough saying, oh, they just have different opinions and ideas. No, they're literally in opposition to our liberty. And we have to treat them that way. And we have to make sure that we tell people, go out to the polls. Don't just sit there and talk about it. Because Democrats will go and they'll grab people and they'll say, get in my car, you're going to vote, right? Well, Republicans, oh, we're too refined and we're too kind and we have good manners. We need to start playing like we're down a man. Get in the car, I'm taking you to go vote. And we have to be aggressive. And if we can do those things, we'll never have to worry about this ever again.
You hit on something very important. And I created a meme, and I sent it out, and of course I've got about, 3 followers on Twitter, as opposed to most normal human beings who have, hundreds of thousands. But what I said essentially is register Republicans. Show up to vote in November. Trust no one in what they say. Just come out and vote. And the meme was, vote red in November. Overwhelm the vote. That's exactly what needs to be done. We need to go out and register Republicans. We need to go out and make sure you can't listen to what the American media maggots, whose job it is to play down anything positive about Donald John Trump, a conservative, or the Republican Party. You can't listen to the polls. You can't listen to anybody. You have to really almost be in your own little bubble, your own little cocoon. And come November, get out. Drop your absentee ballot in the mail. Make sure you do that if that's how you vote, or physically get your butt down there. Rain, squalls, tornadoes, it doesn't matter. You need to get out in force. I submit again, this is going to be one of the most critical elections in quite some time. This really is for all the marbles. I cannot think
it really
of another way of putting it.
If they get away with it, the first thing they're going to do is impeach Trump. It doesn't matter anything else. They will impeach him. They're unhinged. They're mentally ill. They're unstable, and they will just do it. And they'll convince themselves that they're doing it, with the will of the people and all of that. And the media will jump right back in and, confirm to them that their fantasies are true. And so we have to keep telling people that we're a man down and we got to fight. We have to fight as hard as we can. Oh, I have a meme and it's coming to mind and I hope I can remember. It's like, fight like you're the third monkey on the plank to Noah's Ark and it's starting to rain. Okay. We have to get ready to, get messy and do that. It's hard, though. Republicans have a very hard time being aggressive that way. So that's what I think is the fear.
Unfortunately,
we're not going to be able to motivate people to fight.
Unfortunately, what you say happens to be true. And you said that we're a man down. I noticed before I started the show that on the GOP side, there are 42 seats up. And that's an astounding number of seats that are up. And the leftists, CNN, MSNBC, people of that ilk, Huffington Post, blah, 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 are all saying that there will, in fact, be a huge blue wave, a tsunami, come November. That said, let me throw this out, because I think that there is a potential devastation coming. And I don't... You ever get, KARI Baxter Donovan, you ever get in the mood where you think you say to yourself, if I start to verbalize what it is that I'm really thinking, am I going to put a jinx on what's happening? And so I'm hesitant to say some of these things and how stupid does that sound? Well, the answer is, BZ, it sounds really damn stupid. But
it's true. You know what you know.
You don't want to jinx it. Yeah, you don't want to jinx it.
You got to fight. You got to fight to win. You can't just sit. That's what any good team is going to do. Is going to fight to the end.
But
you can't give up.
The point that I was about to make is this: can you feature on November 9th? Because I think that pretty much all the midterms are again going to be on November 8th. Can you imagine November 9th, 2018 rolling around? And can you imagine the ramifications if the GOP keeps the House and the GOP keeps the Senate, and they've got the Oval Office, and essentially it's the GOP and or conservatives rubbing the noses of leftists in the political ashtray, so to speak. Can you imagine KARI Baxter Donovan on November 9th, if that occurs, how leftists are going to lose their shit?
Well, I think that we're starting to wear them down, and they can't even get up quickly anymore. They're just kind of lagging because we're beating the crap out of them. So yeah, and they deserve to get their noses. You know, it's like the Nazis that had to go through and look at the posters of the dead people after, you know, they were liberated, and they said, the American, you know, military said, you're going to look at what you did.
Well,
and
yes.
That's what I think has to happen. You are going to look at what you did. You're going to look at the communism that you try to force on Americans. They need to have their noses rubbed in it, but I don't think that they're going to have much fight in them left by then because they've lost so much. You know,
they're going insane. I think that you could make an excellent argument for a lot of political insanity going on, but if there's one thing that I have to hand to the LDAM, which are the leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, is they are consistently cohesive, the exact opposite, basically, of what the GOP is. So in my own grudging way, I respect them for that. But to double down and say that the Democrat Party is now moving the way of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a Democrat socialist from the D.C. area, and everyone now is feting her as the new huzzah. She's the person that's going to lead us into, you know, the promised land.
Well, see, what could possibly happen is what could possibly happen is you have historic lows, historic, you know, employment in Black and Hispanic communities. Those people have wanted jobs for a very long time. Now they have jobs, and then you're going to have a communist and a socialist, you know, a Democrat, socialist, communist come and tell them, no, what you really want is you really want welfare benefits. Now, that's going to be a fight that I've waited my entire life to see, that I will be like popping the popcorn and opening up the bottles of wine and just chilling out and watching. They will annihilate the communists, and we don't have to do anything, and which is part of the genius of jobs. Once that community has access to making their own financial decisions and are financially free, you're not going to be able to wrestle it away from them. And that we have strategized about that, we and, you know, the minority outreach community for a long, long time. I've interviewed numerous gangbangers and said to them, would you prefer to have a job or to continue this life of crime? And guess what they say? They don't say, yeah, we'd like to be gangbangers and we would really prefer to be on welfare someplace. No, many of them like to have a job. So when these jobs start coming back in, and they already have, you can just kiss all of those Democrat, socialist, communists goodbye. I mean, Bernie Sanders, has he had a job outside of being a senator?
Outside of politics? No, I don't believe he has. I really honestly don't believe he has.
He doesn't have a work ethic, but that's not actually happening as much as we have been told by the media maggots that, all of these people would prefer to live in ghettos and live off of the government. We've been told that, and it's a lie. And that's been one of my big stories that I've been saying for 20 years. Because I've worked with homeless people, I've worked with felons, I've worked in job developing and trying to get them job opportunities. And when Obama came through, there were no more job opportunities, or they were all going to visa holders or illegal Mexicans, right? So, I mean, I've walked the walk, so I know what I'm talking about. So I am going to sit back and laugh my butt off.
It really could be a popcorn-worthy event. November, let's be honest, KARI Baxter Donovan, November 8th is going to be tense. It's going to be a very tense day and a very tense night.
Wow.
And November 9th may, in fact, be one of the most popcorn-worthy days that we'll see in perhaps a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we have been talking to KARI Baxter Donovan, the East Coast political goddess. And tell us again where you can be read and your new site.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I love talking to you. You're the best.
You will
always. What a great show.
You will always have a place to vent your spleen right here in the saloon.
Thank you so much. And you can check me out and get some articles up at Big League Politics.
Okay.
And at Happit, HAPPIT 1776 on Twitter, and Populist Media, which is Populist-Wire and Populist-Media. It goes to the same place.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it is 1:02 in your neck of the woods, so thank you again for staying up so damn late. I appreciate it.
I love it. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, and good night, madam. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? It's bye-bye time.
Monsieur! Heaven walk!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP. You can find me on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And, of course, by the lovely Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust you can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks to Susan Katz-Keating for the first hour tonight. Thanks to KARI Baxter Donovan for the second hour tonight. Tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel, will be the Sackheads Against Tyranny show, a real chat show featuring myself and Sackheads Clint. And folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening live. Thanks for being in chat. Thanks for listening in the podcast. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Sackheads Against Tyranny tomorrow night. Be there.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.